There are so many people now that want to sell us on pessimism because there's nothing easier in the world to sell than that pessimism. And it's a very certain kind of negative thinking. It's the negative thinking of your friend's weird older brother who smokes weed in the basement all day and dropped out of high school. It's burnout pessimism. It's the kind of pessimism that is the result of unrealized dreams, and that has to put the burden of those unrealized dreams on the outside world. It has to put all the failure of its own life on the failures of the system outside of it. And this goes so far in constructing a world where that person who's telling you that the world is too hard and too difficult and that everything is going to end, that person needs to feel like it's not their fault. Because if they see that it's their fault, the weight of that will be too crushing for them to go on. It's simply a survival mechanism. We all know that person who sits in a cloud of smoke and pontificates on how bad things have gotten, how the world is bullshit, man. And now, that is no longer confined to basements in American suburbia. Now, everyone that has a podcast can sell you on the exact same kind of pessimism. Every internet commenter, every top comment on YouTube or Reddit can be a person who you can tell is smart. They were probably very smart in high school, but through various circumstances, they've gone nowhere, and they have to put that all on the world. And they're obsessed with the idea, completely obsessed with this sort of death cult that you see on Reddit, on YouTube, that you see all over, especially in Gen Z and young people, that climate change is going to destroy the world, even though most climate scientists don't think that. They merely think there's going to be damage and that there are going to be consequences, but no serious climate scientists think that the world is going to be obliterated and that civilization is going to end. They think that the economy is going to collapse and that America is doomed and is a falling empire. They think that capitalism doomed the entire world and that capitalism is what made people selfish and evil and fight each other. Because certainly looking back to the 1400s and previously, no one fought each other. No one stole from one another. No one collected gold. No one did horrible, horrible things in the name of collecting gold for themselves. That didn't happen. They see only the bad in our modern world, because if they accepted the fact that our modern world was a place in which they could be prosperous, they would have to see that it was a failure of personality. And there is nothing people want to see less than the failure of their own personality. In fact, I would go so far as to say the people that you should trust are people that accept that they have failed. There are people, and I have met them, and I like them, and I respect them, people that live in their mom's basement who say, I failed, who say I did wrong, who say I'm trying to do better, but I made bad decisions. Those people might be worth listening to in some cases, but the people who push all of that onto the outside world, it's merely a reflection of their inner world, and the outside world in their minds has to be equally awful as the inner world that they actually have. And I don't say this out of ill will. I say this because these people ever so irresponsibly talk to young people. And again, this is connected to that first metaphor. There's nothing the older brother who smokes weed in the basement likes more than when the young, freshmen come down and look up to him and think that his ideas on philosophy and the falling apart of the American empire are so brilliant. He's the local philosopher. They love him, and he loves them for that. Finally, he gets to feel special. And that breed of person now rules the comment sections on the internet, rules the comment sections on TikTok, which would only be a little funny anecdote if not for the fact that people actually read those things. Those now create young people's idea of the world. 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds. These people listen to the older brothers, and they are greatly influenced by this strand of thought. What happens when you convince every teenager in the world that the world is going to end? They get depressed. What happens when you tell every teenager in the world that things are on the verge of falling apart, that the world is deeply unsafe? They get anxious. What happens when you tell all of them that their culture is nothing but bloodshed and warfare, and that all that they have ever done, going back tons of generations into the past, was kill and conquer and murder, that history is just a meaningless blood path? If you teach them these things, which I mean very seriously, is what is being taught implicitly through this pessimism and cynicism that you see online, then the young people will have no connection to the past, no respect for their parents, no hope for the future, and what is left for them but smoking weed in the basement with that brother. And that's the key, isn't it? Losers don't want to be lonely. The burnouts, the pessimists, want more pessimists around them so they can smoke weed, drink coffee and talk about how bad things are so they don't have to be alone. Because if they're surrounded by a bunch of strivers, they'll be alone in that basement. And all they want to do is drag you down into it. So all I can say is, however young or old you are, is don't listen to the people that want to create more of themselves. They're trying to mimetically infect you with pessimism so that you will join them, so that you won't start the business, so that you won't move to the new country, so that you won't leave them behind. And in this way, we should pity them. We really should feel bad for these people. The trouble is, the things that they do, the things that they say end up hurting lots of young people, end up ruining lives. I mean this seriously. If a 14-year-old gets too pessimistic at the wrong time, they might be doomed. And I think you know exactly what I mean. It can be too late for these kids, especially now. A kid's belief system can form, and then confirmation bias kicks in, and they're trapped in that belief system from 14 till the day they die, and they never get out of it, and they never achieve anything, and they end up perpetuating the cycle by being the burnout, pessimistic brother in the basement. Don't let that be you. Don't listen to them. That's all.